All right, so 22 millimeter lugs, take those off. Next, you're gonna wanna separate the pads from the rotor. So you could do it whichever way you want. I remove this and just spread it here with a long flathead. And then that way the pistons are retracted fully before you even remove the caliper. All right, so there's these pins that slide out. It's the bracket. And then a 13 mil goes in the middle. And then what you do is you put a screwdriver in like this and then apply pressure. Put it on this side. You're gonna have to use two on both sides so that the calipers retract fully. The sensor right here, you can remove a clip and then pry this back. And right there you'll see a connector that you press right there, and it just unclips and it routes in through here, under, through here, over here, on top of this nipple, and then finally in the pad. All right, so next you're gonna take a 21 millimeter like this with some sort of breaker bar to make it easier to remove these two bolts that hold the caliper on. I'll show you where they go. Right there, two of them on the back. Then you're gonna take brake cleaner and clean these passages, that and that right there real well, and that with like a brake cleaner, and you're gonna use a wire brush like this to get rid of all because the pad slides on those surfaces, so you want the new pads to have a completely new new surface to slide up against. And then you're gonna want to clean this real well, especially over here. You're gonna want to sand down a little bit so that when the rotor sits on the hub, that it sits on there perfectly flush. And then take a bungee and support the rotor by this metal brake line, not the rubber one, the metal one. And then so this is after cleaning. As you can see, the surface is cleaned. All right guys, so kind of fast forward a few steps before you put the rotor on. Put anti-seize on. It's this paste. 800 paste. Or you can use any anti-seize you prefer, and then put the rotor on, put that bolt in. That bolt, by the way, is a, what is it? T50. T50 Torx bit, and then you gotta put that bolt in, you get the caliper in, or rotor in, then put the caliper on first without putting brake pads in, and then tighten up those two bolts right there, 22 or 21 mil bolts, there's two of them. Tighten them up all the way, make sure the caliper is level, lined up. Then you're going to put these pins in, one pin there, one pin there. That bracket goes underneath the pins, and then this guy goes before all that. This connecting rod from one point to another, and that's a 13 millimeter. Okay, after that you're gonna tighten this up, tighten the caliper bolts up in the back, and then put your brake wear sensor in. Notice the routing, it goes like this, up behind there, then it goes behind the wheel speed sensor harness, down, up right here, behind the wheel speed sensor harness again, behind there, and then behind there there's a clip. You'll see there's a clip where it clips into. Just route that correctly so that you don't have any issues. And then next we're gonna bleed the system. Back, you have to reset, or you have to move the parking brake into service mode. So you do it with the scan tool, and what that'll do is it'll push this piston back into service mode so you can compress the piston. I just use a flathead with the old pads and compress it all the way in. And then when you're done with the other side, you have to put it into exit maintenance mode. But same thing, you got one bolt, that's a hex bolt. The only thing that's different is you're going to use a 15 mil, 15 millimeter. For the bolts in the back, right there. There's two of them, one there and one there. And then that's it. You just gotta grease up your where the pads sit in that bracket there and there. And once again, you use the 800 paste, and then clean everything with brake cleaner so that you don't have any grease all over the rotor. Alright, so car is started. Now we're gonna put the brakes back for the parking brake. And you'll actually hear it in a second. Hear that? That was it reinitializing again. And then we'll either get a success or error, depending on if everything's done correctly. Alright, so successful, so we're good. And now what we can do is reset the maintenance for the service. I'll show you in a second.